Graham Hunter, good morning.
Good morning to you.
How are you?
That's a very personal question at this time in the morning.
It is.
Shall we just say smarter than the average bear? Something like that?
It reminds me of that gag where it's like, you know, the way when you're in the States, you know, it's kind of cursory for everyone in the service sector. It's like, have a nice day. And like the logical response from the likes of me is like, sorry, I've made other plans.
You see, this is one of the best interests I've ever had on Off the Ball. I like this branch of the conversation. You can count yourself very lucky that I haven't used Anglo-Saxon language already. The restraint has been immense on my part. But every time we speak, let's begin like this. I'll keep you fully up to date as exactly how I am each day.
Daniel McDonnell is in as well.
Oh yeah, hi Graham. I'm fine this morning. You know, we're all good here. John,
Dan, I want to ask because I can see. Man, you look robust, almost Roman.
Robust?
Roman,
yeah. You look, I know.
Go for Roman over robust.
I'm not sure about like you wake up in the morning, your wife says, wow, you look robust. Wow.
You know we're on air now when you talk about your marital situation.
I know.
Just move on to the football.
It's a lot more interesting though than talking about like, you know, Barcelona and Dortmund and so on, but we will talk about that.
When you're talking, it's not, no.
What you make of it last night? Obviously, the main narrative was Messi wasn't starting. The kid, Fatty, 16 years of age, tough introduction for him as well. But a game that neither of us actually saw in the studio. But what was it like, Graham?
Exactly as expected. Barcelona are not only, for those who dip in and out of Football Club Barcelona, don't be bringing your golden memories. They don't conserve the ball the way that they used to. Not just age, not father time, but Busquets, although he was one of standout performers for Barcelona, is no longer surrounded by Xavi and Iniesta. He didn't even have Rakitic through the majority of this season helping him patrol. And therefore, although Rakitic came on yesterday, Busquets is being pressed and caught. The possession stats Barcelona enjoy now generally are because other teams want to suck them in and then counter-attack them, rather than Barca dominating the tempo of a game or managing a game. And therefore, what we saw, I think, was them being smart because they're very technical. But in many occasions, Dortmund were able to penetrate them, were able to produce power plays that Barcelona didn't particularly like. Almost all the good chances fell to Dortmund, Brandt hitting the bar. Penalty, which I thought was well won by Sancho, really dumb by Semedo, just about right, I think. Ter Stegen produced the best performance for Football Club Barcelona, not just saving the penalty, but two other big blocks against his former Borussia Mönchengladbach academy teammate, Marco Reus. Overall, I think anybody who doesn't like Football Club Barcelona, what they stand for, the fact that they win so much all the time, will have come away cursing them, shaking their fist at the television, thinking that's one of the 9 lives used up. They will think that's a really, really good point to start the group with.
They did one shot on target. I'm just looking at the stats here. They had 59% possession, which is obviously, you know, pretty laudable away from home. One shot on target, Dan. It does look like they're kind of slightly on the wane. Yeah,
I don't know, like, Graham, because I'm interested. I watched the game against Real Betis, and they had that sort of period after half-time where they turned it on for, 15, 20 minutes, and they blew them away. And they've scored 5 against Valencia, so you would look at that and think, OK, there's still a certain attacking personality or there's a certain Barcelona style there, but, I mean, you're sort of presenting a slightly different image, I think.
First of all, the seasons have begun to take their toll on Luis Suarez. Domestically, he's still fantastic. He's a really, really bright footballer, Suarez. Not just streetwise and master of dark arts, but really, really clever. In Europe, the stat that he hasn't now scored away from home for 4 years is for a reason. It's not a fluke. He's just back from injury right now. He's 32. There's a couple of kilos more than at his best days. He's a little bit slower. He's easier to shut down. The fact that Barca don't control possession means that very often he's been given the ball in situations where it's a chase or a wrestle for the ball rather than into a channel or right to his feet. And so this phenomenally talented 16-year-old, who'll be 17 in Halloween, who becomes Barcelona's youngest ever player in UEFA competition by playing in Signal Iduna last night, is It's very, very special, very smart. He's been well trained. He uses the ball well. He's got a trick. He's quick. He's a centre forward who's converted to the left wing, so he can play centrally and score. He's comfortable with that. Or he can cut in off the left. But last night in Germany, he was played on the right by Valverde. I'd like to pretend to you I know why. I thought it was a mistake. Only when he was changed to the left did he make impact. So Ansu didn't have, even for a 16-year-old, a night that represented where he's at in his development. Griezmann worked his socks off, but very little clean possession whatsoever. So this one shot on target, again, is a horrible stat to hear for the first time. If you've been watching Barcelona, particularly this season, particularly the way they played for half the game at San Mamés in losing to Athletic, the 45 minutes against Osasuna, and I know I'm not talking now about their performance in Dortmund last night, but for 45 minutes against Osasuna, a newly promoted side, they played the worst football I've seen from them for 17 or 18 years. So times are difficult. They're definitely remodelling the side. They're not quite clear about their best 11. They've got handfuls of players who are not yet fully match sharp. Their pre-season was truncated by people playing in competitions, having extra holidays. So there's better to come. There's definitely, this is not the end of Football Club Barcelona. When they play well and they spark at the Camp Nou, remember the difference between carving out a win against Liverpool at the Camp Nou, which they didn't deserve, but still carving out a 3-0 win, and then being pumped at Anfield. You'll see elements of that most of the season. Away performances, and final word to Messi on this, while he's been injured, he gave a massive interview to Diario Sport, 5-6 pages, the biggest in his life. The key, he said, to winning the Champions League again, which I want, which Barca want, we haven't won it for a long time, is scoring goals away from home in Europe. We're not good enough at that. They weren't even close to being good enough at that again in Dortmund last night. Until they sort it, teams will bully them when Barcelona are on the road.
That's interesting. So Messi, this 5-6 page interview, was there much else in it? Is there any theory as to why he gave this interview now?
Huge, absolutely huge. First of all, it was reported all summer that it was Messi who said, I must have Neymar. He said, well, I don't run the club. That's been proven before. We gave our opinion, the senior players, about whether Neymar should come or not. So in other words, it was a nice way of saying, look, I don't dictate, but I told the club we want Neymar. The question was, did the club try hard enough? Messi's like, well, look, I know they negotiated. I don't know if they tried hard enough or not. He goes into huge detail about it's a good idea that Carlos Puyol comes back to the football management of the club, not the coach's job. He goes into detail about how much he still remains hungry to stay at Football Club Barcelona, because it was revealed in the week 10 days prior to this huge interview that he has a clause in his contract since his last renewal that each season he's free to leave, free at his own behest. He can walk away from his contract every summer from now until the end of the deal. Barca want to renegotiate the deal to amplify the years. And he was saying, well, look, even with that freedom, Barca's my home. I want to be here. It's a choice. I actively want to stay. But, and then the buts came up, but we have to start winning. We have to start scoring away from home. It was a really clear message that he yearns for the Champions League, that he doesn't think that they're yet in a good enough state for it, that he wanted Neymar to come in, play with him. And he mentions Griezmann, and because there's a big swell of informed gossip, not rumour, that when Neymar was potentially able to move and Barcelona's ability to match the price Paris Saint-Germain were saying was a bare minimum, the 100-and-something million that they spent on Griezmann, Messi wanted spent on Neymar. Doesn't mean that Griezmann and Messi are going to be at war. Messi won't welcome him. Griezmann's been talking Messi up until they finally get the chance to play together, which they hadn't until last night. But Messi wanted the money spent on Neymar rather than Griezmann. That's just a fact of life that is confirmed by the interview and reading between the lines. It's unusual to see, even as captain of the club, him speaking that clearly. But I thought it was healthy. He's changed over the years, lads. He didn't used to like these situations. Now he's much more comfortable with it, much more interesting. He's 32 now.
You obviously tip Liverpool to win the Champions League. They're third favourites. Barca are still second favourites. Is your kind of confidence waned a bit after last night in Naples?
You serious?
No.
No. No, I also said in looking at the group that Naples was a place where I didn't really expect Liverpool to do much more than get a point at best. I think that Liverpool's beginning to the season domestically, okay, last night it didn't really work for them. They might have got more out of the game, but I watched them. I went to watch them in Switzerland against Lyon, went to the training camp, spoke to a couple of players. To my mind, it's a little bit surprising they've started so well domestically, given how chopped up their pre-season was, how few of the players, the big players, were there at the same time, building up reserves of fitness and sharpness. And therefore, I think you can lose at Napoli. Napoli are a side that, there's been a 7-goal thriller in each of their first 2 Serie A matches, including a 4-3 against Juventus. They're really, really dangerous. They've toughened up. It's a horrible place to play. Liverpool don't particularly enjoy it there. They were handsomely beaten by Napoli in pre-season. That they've lost like that is you stubbed your toe. That's it. You haven't broken a limb. I like their hunger. I trust it when the players tell me we're capable of doing more than last season. And I think they are. And I look across Europe, they've got to punch their weight. They've got to fulfill those promises. But I don't think they've been sated. That's my point. I do think that the Premier League's a priority. And I also tipped them to win the Premier League this summer, building into this season. So outright definite going to win it? No. But do I think Liverpool on the day are capable of beating every side that's in their way? I do, and therefore, if I believe that, why wouldn't they be one of my favourites to win the title again?
So what does 85 goals in all competitions last season mean to you?
One of my better performances at 5-a-side.
No, that's not what it means. It's what Neymar, Mbappe and Cavani scored last season, none of whom is playing tonight for PSG against Real Madrid.
No, that's right. It's interesting that they've found, in Choupo-Moting, they've found an alternate scorer. It's interesting that immediately you take Cavani away from the side. I'm not so sure about Neymar. That brutal ability to win in any circumstances, which they showed domestically last season, has gone away. There's a time now when they're going to be reunited, those three. It won't be tonight. Zidane coming to town with a Real Madrid side that is... It's a really fascinating game because Real Madrid are... how would I phrase it best? They're beginning to play a brand of football which is very attractive, but they're only doing it... It's like when you've got your batteries and your remote control, and it'll change the channel 6 times out of 10. The other 4, nothing happens.
Oh, God, I hate that.
65-minute matches. And for 65 minutes, particularly in the last outing, it can look mesmerising because the fluidity of the ball movement, the sharpness, the one-touch passing, Benzema's form's exceptional. James Rodriguez probably hasn't played better for Real Madrid than he did at the weekend against Levante when he was mesmerising. It was a plus for Real Madrid in that I think they were going to definitely play Mendy. He looks in good form. He'll be better defensively at left back. Marcelo's a minor injury. The injury list has been eternal. As many injuries as Paris Saint-Germain front three had goals last season. But there's something about Real Madrid whereby they're still vulnerable. They still concede too many times. But there's a quickness and a sharpness about them now, growing, that really at no stage they showed last season, either under Lopetegui or Solari or Zidane. And Zidane's part of the season finished so weakly last term that I think they were real. And he was so ticked off, so hacked off that he didn't get Pogba and that his president didn't try hard enough, that there were real concerns about whether this second project for Zidane was going to click. Right now, if you're going to watch that Paris Saint-Germain Real Madrid match, I think you can be, albeit that Ramos is out at the back, it'll be an interesting one for Militao, who's come from Porto to play next to Varane at centre-back. I think there's real entertainment on hand. And while I'm not going to be wildly tipping Real Madrid for any trophies just yet, the potential is that if you come back in 4, 5, 6 weeks, it might be time to say, oh, look, this project is really taking shape. They're a bit more rigorous in the central midfield. Toni Kroos getting a new contract last May, I couldn't believe. He was deadly dull, flat-footed and frankly lazy last season. This season, it's been quite fun watching him. He's kind of interested again. So there's something happening at Real Madrid, and if Paris Saint-Germain aren't on their mettle tonight, even with I guess it's Keylor in goals, so that's going to be guaranteed. He'll give an Olympic performance just to say to Real Madrid, hiya, you shouldn't have let me go. It should be good football.
Looking forward to seeing you someday playing five-a-side. Thanks for that, Graham.
85, baby, 85.